For 12 long years, her husband convinced her she was worthless, broken, a failure who should be grateful for even the smallest scrap of attention, and she believed him until the night the lies finally broke. On a freezing November evening, after she had lost everything she thought she had left, a widowed father with 5 grieving children found her alone on a bench, and against every instinct screaming for self-preservation, chose her anyway, not as a project or a burden, but as a human being whose story wasn't finished yet. This is the story of a woman who thought her life was over, of a family shattered by loss, and of how sometimes the person you set out to save ends up saving you right back in ways you never imagined possible. Before we step fully into their lives, take a second to drop a comment telling us where in the world you're tuning in from, because we love seeing how far these stories travel, and if stories of survival, found family, and second chances speak to you, remember to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Logan Ashford gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, his knuckles bleaching white against the smooth black leather, as the dashboard clock blinked 9:47 p.m. In quiet accusation, reminding him he was late again, and that somewhere across town his 5 6-year-olds were being kept awake by the kind but exhausted woman next door who had already done more than her share. The accounting firm had needed those reports finished tonight, the year-end numbers that always seemed to land on his desk at the worst possible time, so he had stayed behind while his kids, 5 of them, all born within minutes of each other, and each with enough energy for 3, went to Mrs. Torrey's house after school. The elderly neighbor had been kind enough to watch them, but when he'd called to say he'd be late, he'd heard the strain in her voice, the way she tried to hide the fatigue behind gentle reassurance, and he knew he couldn't keep doing this to her, to his children, or to himself without something breaking. Streetlights cast long, thin shadows across the empty road as Logan turned onto Maple Street, the neighborhood quieter than usual, the kind of cold that made the air feel like glass pressing against the skin. That was when he saw her. A woman sat hunched on a wooden bench near the bus stop, arms wrapped tight around herself as she trembled in the November air. Her blonde hair caught the orange glow of the streetlight, a dull halo around a figure that looked drained of everything but sheer survival, and even from a distance Logan could see she had almost nothing with her, no coat, no bag, just the thin dress she wore, not nearly enough against the creeping frost on the pavement. He told himself he should keep driving, that he had enough problems waiting for him at home, 5 children who needed bedtime stories and clean pajamas, and a father who didn't smell like office coffee and stress. Yet his foot hit the brake before his mind could argue, as if the decision had been waiting in his bones long before this night. Logan pulled over and left the engine running, stepping out into air that bit at his face and burned his lungs. "Miss, are you all right?" he called gently as he approached, keeping his hands visible and his pace slow. The woman's head snapped up, and in that first clear look, Logan saw fear flash across her face. Not the startled caution of someone caught off guard, but raw, primal fear that made him instinctively take a step back and raise his hands slightly in a gesture of surrender. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quickly, his voice low and calm. You're shivering, and it's freezing out here tonight." Up close he could see her better. She looked to be in her early 30s, with straight blonde hair that fell past her shoulders and a fringe that partially hid her eyes, but not enough to mask the shadows there. Those eyes, hazel and haunted, stared at him with a mixture of suspicion and desperate exhaustion, as if she were too tired even to run. "I'm fine," she whispered. But her voice cracked on the word, betraying her even as she tried to hold on to what little pride she had left. "You're not fine," Logan answered, still keeping his distance and his tone careful. "When's the last time you ate?" She didn't answer. Her gaze dropped to her hands, which were clenched in her lap, and that was when Logan noticed the bruises on her wrists. Red-brown marks in half-moon shapes that told stories he didn't need to hear to understand. Something in his chest tightened, a familiar kind of helpless anger that he usually reserved for late nights alone when the kids were finally asleep and the house was too quiet. "Look," he said after a moment, "I'm not asking for your life story, and I'm not here to judge anything, but it's going to drop below freezing tonight. There's a diner 2 blocks from here, and I'm heading that way. Let me buy you a meal at least, something hot, somewhere you can warm up for a bit." "I don't have any money to pay you back," she murmured, still not quite looking at him. "I'm not asking you to," he said. Vanessa Hayes looked up at this stranger, this tired-looking man with kind brown eyes and worry lines etched deep into his forehead, and for the first time in months, she felt something that scared her almost as much as the fear she lived with. Hope, small and fragile, but alive. "Why?" she asked quietly, as if daring him to say something cruel. Logan ran a hand through his short brown hair and let out a long breath that clouded in the cold air. "Because someone helped me once when I needed it, when I was pretty sure I wasn't worth the effort," he said. "Because you look like you need it now. And because—" He paused, his expression softening. "Because I'd want someone to do the same if it was someone I cared about sitting out here alone." Vanessa stood slowly, her legs stiff from sitting for hours on the cold bench, and when she swayed slightly, Logan instinctively reached out to steady her, then pulled his hand back the second she flinched. "Sorry," he said quickly, lowering his arm. "I've got 5 kids at home. I'm used to catching people before they fall." "5?" she echoed, despite everything feeling the flicker of surprise. "Quintuplets," Logan replied, and the smile that tugged at his mouth was tired but genuine. "It's chaos. Complete, beautiful chaos." They walked to his car together, the silence between them filled with the sound of distant traffic and the crunch of gravel under their shoes. Vanessa hesitated at the passenger door, fingers lingering on the handle. "I promise I'm not a serial killer," Logan said with a small, crooked smile. "I get that you don't know me, and if you're not comfortable getting in, I can just give you some cash for the diner and you can walk there instead." But Vanessa was already opening the door, because she had weighed her options and found that she had nothing left to lose. She had already lost everything that could be taken, except her life, and she wasn't entirely sure that counted as a blessing yet. The diner was nearly empty, just an older couple in a corner booth sharing pie and a tired waitress wiping down the counter and clearly counting the minutes until she could clock out. Logan ordered coffee and a burger for himself, then turned the menu toward her. "Get whatever you want," he said, leaving the choice in her hands. She ordered soup and bread, her stomach too knotted with nerves to handle anything heavier, though the smell of frying onions and coffee made her painfully aware of how long it had been since she'd last eaten properly. When the waitress left, an awkward silence settled between them, the kind that made the clink of cutlery and the hum of the refrigerator feel too loud. "I'm Logan," he said finally, wrapping his hands around his coffee mug as if it might anchor him. "Logan Ashford." "Vanessa," she replied after a moment. She didn't give her last name because Hayes belonged to a life she was trying to bury, and she wasn't sure she wanted to carry it anymore. "So, Vanessa," Logan continued, "are you from around here?" "No," she said, and that at least was simple truth. "I just arrived today." She didn't explain that she had taken a bus as far as Mrs. Priscilla's money would carry her, that it had dropped her in this small town she had never heard of, and that within hours her bag had been stolen, leaving her with nothing but the clothes on her back and the one thing she had kept hidden in her pocket, a small locket that had belonged to her mother, the only piece of her old self she had not surrendered. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" Logan asked, already suspecting the answer. Vanessa's silence said more than any words could. Logan studied her for a long moment. He was good at reading people, he had to be, with 5 kids who each had their own ways of hiding pain and testing limits. This woman was clearly running from something, or someone. The bruises on her wrists, the fear in her eyes, the way she kept her body angled toward the exit even while sitting at the table, all told the same story. He knew that the smart, safe thing would be to offer her enough money for a motel and leave it at that, to help just enough that his conscience could rest. Instead, he heard himself say, "I have a guest room." Vanessa's head snapped up. "What?" "I'm serious," he said, and even as the words left his mouth, Logan wondered if he had finally lost his mind. "It's not much, and my house is, well, like I said, it's chaos, but it's warm and it's safe, and you'd have a roof over your head for a while." "You don't even know me," she said, the familiar shame and suspicion rising together. "No," Logan admitted, "but I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning, and I know what it's like when someone throws you a rope, even when they don't have to." He met her eyes. "I'm not expecting anything from you. You can leave whenever you want. Right now you need help, and I'm in a position to offer some." Vanessa felt tears prick her eyes, hot and unexpected. After everything Mike had put her through, after years of cruelty disguised as marriage, here was a stranger offering kindness with no strings attached. And the contrast hurt almost as much as it healed. "Why would you do that?" she whispered. "You have kids. You don't know anything about me." Logan took a sip of his coffee, buying himself a second to choose his words. 2 years ago, my wife died," he said quietly. "Cancer. One day we were fighting over whose turn it was to pick the movie, and a few months later she was gone, and I was left with 5 6-year-olds who had just watched their mother fade away right in front of them." His voice remained steady, but Vanessa could hear the pain threaded beneath it. "I was drowning. I couldn't keep a nanny for more than 2 weeks. Work was falling apart, the kids were acting out, and I was barely keeping my head above water." He looked at her directly. "If I'm honest, I still am. Every nanny I hire quits within days. They all say the same thing, that the quintuplets are too difficult, too much to handle. And they're right in some ways, because my kids are grieving and they don't know how to show it any other way, and I don't always know how to help them anymore." "So you're not just offering me help," Vanessa said slowly, understanding dawning. "You're hoping I might help you too." "I'm being selfish, yes," Logan admitted, "but I meant what I said. You need a place to stay and I have one. There's no pressure. If you want to rest and leave tomorrow, that's fine. But if you're looking for something more steady, I could use help with the kids in exchange for room and board." It wasn't charity. It was a kind of transaction, a trade of her time and energy for safety and shelter, which somehow made it easier to accept. "I've never taken care of children before," Vanessa said quietly. "Have you ever been around chaos?" Logan asked, one corner of his mouth lifting. Despite everything, a small smile tugged at her lips. "Yes," she said, "I have." "Then you're already qualified," he replied. Logan's house was a modest 2-story home in a quiet neighborhood that bore the marks of life rather than neglect. Toys littered the front yard. A deflated soccer ball, a pink bicycle lying on its side, chalk drawings covering the driveway in fading colors. "Sorry about the mess," Logan said as he unlocked the front door. "I gave up on perfection about 2 years ago." Inside was worse by any magazine standards, yet strangely comforting. Dishes were piled in the sink, backpacks and shoes scattered across the living room floor, drawings taped haphazardly to the walls. But beneath the clutter, Vanessa could see traces of love everywhere. Framed photos of 5 smiling children with gap-toothed grins, a handmade World's Best Dad card on the fridge, a worn teddy bear tucked carefully on the couch instead of tossed aside. This wasn't neglect, this was survival. Mrs. Torrey probably put them to bed already, Logan said, glancing at the clock. It was past 10. I'll show you to the guest room. Bathroom's down the hall. There's not much food in the house, but help yourself to whatever you find. He led her upstairs, past several closed doors behind which she could hear the soft sounds of sleeping children, to a small room at the end of the hall. It was sparse. A bed, a dresser, a small window overlooking the backyard. But it was clean and warm, and to Vanessa it looked like paradise. "Thank you," she whispered, her throat thick. "You have no idea what this means." Logan paused in the doorway. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow's going to be loud, fair warning. 5 8-year-olds wake up like alarm clocks at 6 on the dot." After he left, Vanessa sat on the edge of the bed and let the tears finally fall. For the first time in 12 years, she had spent an evening with a man who hadn't hurt her, belittled her, or made her feel like she was less than nothing. For the first time since she was 19, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could breathe again. Morning came with the thunder of small feet and raised voices racing down the hallway. Vanessa jolted awake, disoriented, her heart racing as muscle memory screamed that Mike was in the next room waiting to drag her into another fight. For a horrible moment she thought she was back in that house, bracing for accusations. Then she remembered. She was safe. And this was Logan's home, not Mike's. She dressed quickly in the same clothes from yesterday, because she had nothing else, and made her way downstairs, following the sounds of chaos like a trail. The kitchen was a war zone. 5 children, 3 boys with short brown hair, and 2 girls with long curly brown locks, talked over each other while Logan attempted to make breakfast, and barely contained a small disaster. Burnt toast sat abandoned on a plate, and he was currently overcooking scrambled eggs while simultaneously trying to referee an argument about whose turn it was to use the blue bowl. "Nolan had it yesterday," one boy insisted. "Did not. Ryan had it," another shot back. "Noah spilled milk in it, so it doesn't count," someone else argued. "Harper, stop pulling Harlow's hair," Logan called out, turning off the stove before he could burn anything else. "She started it," came the immediate reply. Logan looked up and saw Vanessa standing in the doorway, and relief flooded his features like someone had just taken 10 pounds off his shoulders. "Good morning," he said over the noise. "Welcome to breakfast." 5 pairs of eyes turned to stare at her. The room went abruptly silent. Vanessa felt her breath catch. These children were beautiful in that messy, real way only kids can be, all of them with their father's warm gray-brown eyes, each one carrying a different mix of curiosity, suspicion, and unspoken hurt. "Who are you?" asked Nolan, the tallest of the boys, arms crossed defensively as if bracing for another stranger who wouldn't last. "Kids, this is Vanessa," Logan said. "She's going to be staying with us for a while. She's going to help out around the house." "Like the other nannies?" Harper, one of the girls, asked, her voice sharp and challenging. "They all leave." "I'm not a nanny," Vanessa said quietly, careful to keep her tone calm. "I'm just someone who needs a place to stay, and your dad was kind enough to help me." "Why?" Ryan demanded, suspicious and direct. "Ryan," Logan warned, but Vanessa held up a hand. "It's okay," she said, meeting the boy's gaze, "because I didn't have anywhere else to go, and your dad is a good person." "Are you sad?" Harlow, the quieter of the 2 girls, tilted her head, studying Vanessa with an openness that adults rarely showed. The question caught Vanessa off guard. Children saw things adults tried so hard to hide. "Yes," Vanessa answered honestly after a breath. "I am, but I'm trying not to be all the time." "Our mom died," Noah volunteered matter of fact. "That made us sad, too." "Noah," Nolan said sharply, protective and embarrassed. Logan's expression tightened, but he didn't correct them. This was their way of processing, blunt, honest, searching for connection in shared pain. "I'm very sorry about your mom," Vanessa said gently. "That must be really hard." "You're not her," Harper said fiercely. "Don't try to be." "Harper," Logan started. "I don't want to be her," Vanessa interrupted, her voice firm but kind. "I couldn't be even if I tried. Your mom was special to you and no one can replace her. I'm just Vanessa, that's all." Something in Harper's expression shifted at that, the hardness cracking by a fraction of an inch. "All right, everyone," Logan said, seizing the moment. "Finish getting ready for school. The bus comes in 20 minutes and half of you aren't even dressed yet." The children scattered like startled birds, leaving Logan and Vanessa alone in the kitchen surrounded by the smell of burnt toast and unspoken questions. "Sorry about that," Logan said, scraping the ruined eggs into the trash. "They're protective of their mom's memory, and they've learned not to trust people who promise to stay." "They shouldn't trust me," Vanessa said quietly. "They don't know me." "But you were honest with them," Logan replied. "That's more than most people give them." He started cracking fresh eggs into a bowl. "You don't have to help," he added. "You can just rest today if you want." But Vanessa was already collecting dirty dishes, rinsing them under the tap. "I'd like to help if that's okay," she said. For the first time since his wife died, Logan felt like the weight on his shoulders had shifted just slightly, not gone, but moved enough that he could breathe a bit deeper. The first week was a test of endurance. The quintuplets were, as Logan had warned, a handful in ways that went beyond energy. They tested Vanessa constantly, ignoring her requests, making messes right after she cleaned them, answering only when absolutely necessary, and watching her with the wary eyes of children who had seen too many temporary adults drift in and out of their lives. Nolan was the ringleader, the one who watched her with sharp, assessing eyes, waiting for her to fail like all the others. Harper followed his lead, her grief turning into anger at any adult who dared step into the space her mother had left behind. Ryan was quieter but equally suspicious. Noah seemed the most willing to accept her, but took his cues from his siblings. And Harlow, sweet and sensitive, wanted to trust but was terrified of being hurt again. Vanessa understood all of it too well. She had spent 12 years walking on eggshells, reading moods, trying to anticipate needs before they turned into demands, and those survival skills, born from abuse, translated into a patience and gentleness these children desperately needed. She didn't push for affection or demand gratitude. She simply showed up, over and over, steady as the sunrise. Every morning she made breakfast. Not perfectly at first, burning toast and overcooking eggs, but she kept trying. She packed their lunches, taking quiet mental notes. Nolan hated mayonnaise. Harper would only eat strawberry jam. Ryan needed his sandwich cut diagonally. Noah liked extra juice, and Harlow wanted her carrots with ranch dressing. She learned these things without interrogations, just by watching and listening. When they came home from school, she didn't pepper them with questions. She made snacks available and sat nearby doing small tasks, folding laundry, sorting mail, present but not intrusive, creating a safe background hum of adult presence they could approach or ignore as they chose. Slowly, so slowly she almost missed it, they started to soften. It was Noah who cracked first. Vanessa was folding laundry in the living room when he appeared, clutching a wrinkled piece of paper. "Can you help me?" he asked, his voice small. "Of course," she said. "What do you need?" He held out the paper. It was a drawing assignment for school. "We're supposed to draw our family," he said, "but I don't know how to draw Mom anymore. I can't remember exactly what she looked like." Vanessa's heart clenched. "Can I see photos of her?" she asked gently. Noah led her to Logan's small study where a framed photo sat on the desk. A beautiful woman with warm eyes and a bright smile holding 5 newborn babies wrapped in rainbow-colored blankets. She was beautiful, Vanessa said softly. Your dad keeps her picture here so he can remember her while he works. That's love, Noah. Do you have pictures of your mom? He asked. Vanessa touched the locket around her neck, the one thing she'd managed to keep. Just one, she said. In here. She died when I was young, too. Did you forget what she looked like? Sometimes the details get fuzzy, Vanessa admitted. But I never forgot how she made me feel, safe and loved. That doesn't fade, even when faces do. Noah considered this, his brow furrowed. Dad says Mom loved us more than anything, he said. Even when she was sick and the medicine made her tired, she still read us stories. Then that's what you draw, Vanessa suggested. Not just what she looked like, but what she did. Draw her reading to you. Draw the feeling. Noah's face lit up with sudden clarity. He sat at the coffee table and Vanessa returned to her laundry, folding shirts while he drew, not hovering but simply staying nearby. He didn't ask her to help with the drawing itself. He just wanted someone there who understood that grief wasn't something you got over, but something you learned to carry. When Logan came home that evening and saw Noah's drawing, his mother reading to 5 small figures on a couch, he had to step outside for a moment. Vanessa found him on the porch with his shoulders shaking, his breath coming in uneven pulls. I couldn't help him with that, Logan said roughly. Every time they ask about her, I freeze. I don't know how to talk about her without falling apart. You don't have to have all the answers, Vanessa said quietly. You just have to be there. You're doing better than you think. Logan looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time wondered about the scars she carried. She had been with them for 4 weeks, and he knew almost nothing about her life before that night on the bench, except that she had been hurt and that she had needed help badly enough to accept a stranger's offer. She hadn't asked for anything, hadn't demanded explanations for his grief or the chaos of his home. She had simply become another thread in the fabric of their broken little household. Thank you, he said, for helping him. He helped me too, Vanessa replied, and it was true. These children with their raw grief and blunt honesty were teaching her that it was okay to feel, okay to heal, and okay to believe that kindness could exist without a price attached. By the 2nd month, Vanessa knew she couldn't just stay in Logan's house indefinitely without contributing beyond childcare. I need to find a job, she told Logan one evening after the kids were in bed and the house had settled into its nightly quiet. You help with the kids, he said. That's huge. It's not enough for me, Vanessa replied, meeting his eyes. I spent 12 years being financially dependent on someone who used it to control me. I need to stand on my own feet, even while I'm grateful for what you've given me. Logan understood more than she realized. What kind of work are you looking for? He asked. Anything, she said. I'll start anywhere. She found a part-time position at a local bookstore, working while the kids were at school. The pay wasn't much, but the paycheck had her name on it, and that mattered more than the dollars. The owner, an older woman named Margaret, took one look at Vanessa and seemed to see right through the careful walls. You running from something, honey? Margaret asked on her first day as she handed her a stack of books to shelve. Vanessa stiffened. Why would you think that? Because I did the same thing 30 years ago, Margaret said, not unkindly. I know the look. Whatever you left behind, you're safe here. I don't ask questions and I don't judge. For the first time since leaving Mike, Vanessa felt like she could breathe at work. She shelved books, learned the regular customers, and slowly reclaimed small pieces of herself between the stacks. At home, progress with the kids was slow but steady. 9 weeks in, Harper was still the only one holding out fully. She was the toughest, the one who guarded her mother's memory like a fortress. She hid photos of Haley whenever Vanessa walked into a room, bristled at any suggestion Vanessa made, and made it clear in 100 small ways that she was not welcome. Vanessa didn't take it personally. She recognized armor when she saw it, because she had lived in her own for years. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Vanessa was in the kitchen when she heard muffled crying from upstairs. She followed the sound to Harper's room and found the girl sitting on the floor with tangled hair falling into her tear-streaked face, a broken brush in her hand. "I can't do it," Harper sobbed. "I can't make it look right. Mom always did it, and now it's all wrong." Her long curly hair was a mass of knots and frustration. "Can I try to help?" Vanessa asked from the doorway, careful not to intrude. "You'll just make it worse," Harper muttered. "Maybe," Vanessa agreed softly. "But it can't get much more tangled than it already is." Harper hiccuped a tiny laugh through her tears, and Vanessa took that as her opening. She sat on the edge of the bed, and Harper reluctantly moved to sit on the floor in front of her. "My mom used to brush my hair too," Vanessa said, working through the tangles with gentle, patient fingers. Every night before bed, she'd sing while she did it. "What song?" Harper asked. Vanessa's voice was rusty from disuse, but she sang anyway, a soft lullaby her mother had sung when the world had still felt safe. Her hands moved with careful precision, patient with each knot, never pulling too hard. Harper relaxed in stages, shoulders slowly dropping. "Your mom had curly hair too?" Harper asked after a while. "She did," Vanessa said. "She always said it had a mind of its own." "That's what my mom said," Harper whispered. "She said my hair was special, that it was strong and beautiful and wild, just like me." "Your mom was right," Vanessa answered. When she finished, Harper's hair fell in soft, neat curls down her back. The girl ran to the mirror, touching her reflection with something like wonder. "You made it look like when Mom did it," Harper said. "Your mom had good taste," Vanessa replied. She started to stand, but Harper turned suddenly and wrapped her arms around Vanessa's waist. The hug was fierce and desperate. A child's grief poured into a single embrace. Vanessa held her, tears streaming down her own face, and let Harper cry for the mother she had lost too soon. "I miss her so much," Harper whispered into her shirt. "I know, sweetheart," Vanessa said. "I know." When Logan came to check on them an hour later, he found them sitting together on the bed, Harper's head on Vanessa's shoulder, both of them quiet but no longer alone in their pain. That night, after the kids were in bed, Logan and Vanessa sat in the living room with cups of tea, their new ritual for the end of chaotic days. "Harper hasn't let anyone touch her hair since Haley died," Logan said. "She'd rather walk around with tangles than let anyone who isn't her mom help. She's been protecting the memory." "I understand that," Vanessa said. "She's not trying to be difficult. She's trying not to let herself forget." Logan studied her in the soft lamplight. "You never talk about yourself," he said, gently. "About what you're running from." Vanessa's hand instinctively brushed her wrist where the bruises had mostly faded, leaving faint shadows of the violence she had endured. "I was married," she said quietly. "Well, my father married me off at 19. She stared into her tea as if the swirling liquid could swallow the memories. "For 12 years I lived with a man who made me believe I deserved everything he did to me. I couldn't have children. I was barren, or that's what every doctor told us. And he made sure I knew it was my fault, my failure. He said that since I couldn't give him the one thing he wanted, I owed him everything else. My time, my dreams, my body." Her voice shook. "After 12 years, I finally got pregnant. I was terrified and overjoyed all at once. I wanted to be certain before I told him, because I knew what disappointment would cost me if I was wrong." A tear slipped down her cheek. "He beat me one night when we came home from a party, all because I smiled at his business partner when the man said I looked nice. Just a smile. He said I embarrassed him, that I was flirting. I kept begging him to stop, telling him it was nothing, that I would never do anything to shame him. And when he wouldn't listen, I told him about the baby earlier than I wanted to because I thought it would calm him down." Her breath hitched. "He called me a liar, said I was trying to trap him. The next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital bed and being told the baby was gone." She swallowed hard. That was the moment something inside me broke. I had known for a long time that there was nothing safe left for me in that house, but I was terrified to leave. I had no money, no family, and he had made me believe I wouldn't survive without him. So I stayed and told myself I could endure it if I didn't rock the boat. Her voice trembled but kept going. After the baby, after he took that from me, I realized it wasn't just my happiness at risk anymore. It was my life. I couldn't let him take that too. I owed it to the child I never got to meet. I owed it to myself. So I made up my mind to leave. Christ, Logan breathed, his hands fists on his knees. Our family doctor was the only person who truly knew what he'd been doing to me all those years. Vanessa continued. She helped me fake my death. She helped me escape. I ran here with the money she gave me, planning to start over, but I got robbed on my first day. Everything she'd given me was gone, and that's when you found me on that bench. Logan was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "I'm sorry," he said, "for all of it. You deserved none of that." "I used to think I did," Vanessa admitted. "But your children, they've reminded me what unconditional love looks like. They love you not because you're perfect, but because you show up, you try. That's what I forgot was possible." Logan reached across the space between them and took her hand carefully, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "Not if you don't want to be." Something warm bloomed in Vanessa's chest, fragile and new, but unmistakably real. Hope again, stronger this time. And if you're still here listening to her story, if any part of Vanessa's fight to reclaim her worth resonates with you, take a moment to like this video and share it, because you never know who might need to hear that escaping and rebuilding is possible, even when it feels impossible. The months rolled forward and the household found its rhythm, not perfect, but theirs. Vanessa became not a replacement mother, but something else entirely, a steady presence the children could depend on, a kind of anchor that helped hold their grief without trying to erase it. She learned to braid hair and referee arguments, discovered she had a knack for helping with homework and making grilled cheese that didn't burn, and found that the bookstore job gave her a sense of purpose beyond the walls of the house. Margaret became a quiet confidant, someone who understood without needing every detail explained. The children stopped calling her Miss Vanessa and started calling her Nessa, a nickname that belonged only to them and was born from genuine affection, not obligation. Vanessa started a small garden in the backyard, something she had always wanted but Mike had never allowed. The quintuplets helped her plant flowers, their hands getting dirty, their laughter filling the air, and each seed buried in the soil felt like a small prayer for a future she never thought she'd reach. Slowly, so slowly that neither of them wanted to acknowledge it at first, something began to grow between Vanessa and Logan. It was in the way Logan's eyes lingered on her when she laughed with the children, a softness in his expression he didn't know he was wearing. It was in the way Vanessa's heart skipped when she heard his car in the driveway, how she unconsciously listened for his key in the lock. It was in the shared glances over morning coffee that lasted a beat too long, in the brush of hands while washing dishes that sent a current through both of them, in the late-night conversations on the couch after the kids were asleep when neither of them wanted to be the first to say goodnight. Yet neither spoke it aloud. Logan told himself he was still healing, that Vanessa deserved time without pressure, that the children needed stability more than he needed to explore feelings he barely trusted. Vanessa told herself she was imagining things, that a man like Logan couldn't really see her that way, that she needed to focus on standing entirely on her own feet before she could even think about love again. So they existed in a careful balance, more than friends, not quite something else. A family bound by choice and unspoken, feelings neither of them was ready to name. The first year passed, then stretched into the second. Vanessa's confidence grew. Her nightmares came less often. She started to recognize herself in the mirror again. Not the broken woman Mike had created, but someone new, someone stronger. The children were thriving. Nolan no longer tested her every turn just to see if she would leave. Harper sang while Vanessa brushed her hair each morning. Ryan shared his schoolwork without being asked. Noah talked about his dreams and fears. Harlow called her Nessa with the same easy affection she used for her father. They had become a family, not through blood, but through choice, through showing up every day, through honoring the mother they had lost while making room for someone new. It was Harlow who said it first on an ordinary Tuesday evening while they were setting the table for dinner. "Nessa, you're like our family now, right?" she asked as she handed over forks. "I'd like to think so," Vanessa replied, pausing. "Do you want me to be?" All 5 children looked at each other, that silent communication only siblings truly understand. And then they nodded. "You're our Nessa," Harper said firmly. "That makes you family." Vanessa had to excuse herself and step into the bathroom to cry for a few minutes, holding on to the sink as the realization washed over her. Logan found her there, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "They mean it," he said. "You know that, right? You're not a nanny or just someone staying here or even just a friend. You're part of us now." "I know," Vanessa whispered. "That's what scares me. What if I mess this up?" Logan reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture so tender it made her breath catch. His hand lingered for a heartbeat before he pulled away. "We're all figuring it out together," he said. "None of us had the answers, but we have each other. That's enough." Their eyes met, and for a moment the air between them felt charged with everything they weren't saying. Then Logan cleared his throat and stepped back. "I should check on dinner," he said. Vanessa nodded, not trusting her voice. The shift came on an unremarkable spring afternoon nearly 2 years after that November night on the bench. Vanessa had taken a half day from the bookstore and decided to surprise Logan by bringing him the lunch he had forgotten in his rush out the door. When she walked into his office at the accounting firm, Logan was on the phone, but his face lit up when he saw her, that genuine smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes and made her heart do the things she had been trying to ignore for months. He ended the call quickly. "You didn't have to do this," he said as she set the lunch on his desk. "I know," she replied, "but you've been working so hard lately I thought you could use it." Logan stood, rounding the desk until they were closer than necessary. Vanessa could see the war in his eyes, the same war that had been raging in her own heart. "Vanessa," Logan said softly, and something in the way he said her name made her breath catch. "I can't do this anymore." Fear shot through her. "Do what?" "Pretend," he said, running a hand through his hair in an agitated gesture. "Pretend that when you walk into a room my whole world doesn't shift. Pretend that I don't wait for the sound of your voice every morning. Pretend that watching you with my kids doesn't make me fall a little harder every single day." Vanessa's heart pounded so hard she thought he might hear it. You love me?" she asked, How could I not? Logan's voice cracked. You're the strongest person I know. You came into my life with nothing, broken by someone who should have cherished you, and you still chose to love my children. You rebuilt yourself while helping us heal. You're beautiful and brave, and I love you too, Vanessa interrupted, her voice shaking but sure. I've been so afraid to even think it. Afraid that wanting something good meant it would be taken away. Afraid that you couldn't possibly feel the same way about someone as damaged as... Don't, Logan said, cupping her face gently and wiping away her tears with his thumbs. Don't call yourself damaged. You're not broken, Vanessa. You never were. You survived. You're here. You're whole. I was afraid, she whispered. For 2 years I've felt this growing between us, and I was terrified to name it, terrified to hope. Me too, Logan admitted. I kept telling myself it was too soon, that you needed time, that I was being selfish for even feeling this way. But these 2 years, watching you become yourself again, watching you love my kids, watching you build a life, I fell in love with every version of you. The scared woman I found on that bench, the patient caretaker who won over 5 suspicious children, the independent woman who insisted on getting her own job, the fierce survivor who faced down her past. All of you. Vanessa reached up, her hands steady now, not trembling with fear but anchored in certainty, and pulled him closer. I can't promise I won't be scared sometimes, she said. I can't promise I won't have bad days where the past creeps back in. I don't need perfect, Logan said. I just need honest. I need you exactly as you are. And I promise I will never hurt you. I promise that whatever this is between us, it's real and it's safe. Vanessa kissed him. It was soft and tentative at first, then deeper, 2 years of unspoken feelings and careful distance and wanting but not daring to hope pouring into that single moment. When they pulled apart, both of them were laughing and crying at the same time. What do we tell the kids? Vanessa asked, wiping her cheeks. The truth, Logan said, that we love each other, that this doesn't change how much we love them, that we're still the same family we've been building, just finally admitting what's been there all along. That evening, they sat the quintuplets down in the living room. We need to talk to you about something important, Logan began. 5 pairs of eyes watched them curiously. Harper and Nolan exchanged a look that seemed almost smug. Finally, Harper muttered under her breath. What? Logan blinked. You two have been making googly eyes at each other for like forever, Harper said. We thought you'd never figure it out. Vanessa felt her face flush. You knew? Everyone knew, Ryan said. Mrs. Torrey told us you were clearly smitten like 6 months ago. We had a bet on when you'd finally do something about it, Noah added cheerfully. Harper won. Logan looked at Vanessa, who was caught between embarrassment and laughter. So you're okay with this? Vanessa asked. With your dad and me being together? Harlow stood and walked to Vanessa, taking her hand. Nessa, you've been ours for 2 years now, she said. Dad being happy with you just makes it official. We already told you you're our family, Harper said, her voice softer than usual. This just means Dad finally got smart enough to see what we've known all along. Which is? Logan asked. That you belong together, Nolan said simply. All 7 of us. Healing is never a straight line, and the past doesn't stay buried just because you're ready to move on. 6 months later, 2.5 years after Vanessa arrived in their town, she saw it. A news article online featuring Mike. He was being interviewed about a charity event, speaking eloquently about supporting grieving spouses, his perfect smile plastered across the screen like a mask. Vanessa's hands shook so violently she dropped her phone. Logan found her in the bathroom, sitting on the floor and struggling to breathe. He's still out there, she gasped, living his perfect life, pretending to be some kind of saint while I'm supposed to be dead, and he gets to just— Hey, Logan said, kneeling beside her but careful not to crowd her. Breathe with me, okay? In and out. You're safe. He killed our baby, she sobbed. He beat me for 12 years and the world thinks he's some kind of hero. Logan helped her to her feet and guided her to the couch, holding her while she fell apart against his chest. When her tears finally slowed, he asked gently, "What do you want to do? What can I do?" "I'm dead, remember?" she said with bitter irony. "If I come forward, I'm admitting I faked my death. I could go to jail." "Mrs. Priscilla," Logan said. "The doctor who helped you? Does she still have the medical records?" Vanessa looked up, hope and fear warring in her expression. "She said she kept everything just in case," she said. "Then you have—" "Evidence," Logan replied. "Evidence of 12 years of abuse, of what he did to you and to your baby." He took her hands. "Vanessa, you don't have to let him win. Not anymore." "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know," Logan said. "But you're not alone this time. You have me. You have the kids. You have a whole life now that he can't touch. And Margaret at the bookstore will testify about the shape you were in when you first arrived. Mrs. Story saw you that first week. You have people who will stand by you." The next morning, Vanessa called Mrs. Priscilla. The doctor still had everything: photos of injuries documented over the years, medical records of miscarriages, notes about the final beating that had cost Vanessa her baby and nearly her life. "I kept them because I knew you might need them someday," Mrs. Priscilla said. "I knew he didn't deserve to walk free." With Logan by her side and a lawyer recommended by Mrs. Priscilla, Vanessa did the hardest thing she had ever done. She came forward. The media storm was immediate and brutal. Headlines screamed, "Vanessa Hayes presumed dead, resurfaces with shocking abuse allegations against prominent businessman." Mike's response was exactly what she had expected: denial, claims that she was mentally unstable, threats of lawsuits. But this time she had proof: 12 years of documented abuse, medical records, photos, Mrs. Priscilla's testimony, Margaret's statement about the condition Vanessa had been in when she started at the bookstore, Mrs. Story's account of the frightened woman who had arrived on Logan's doorstep with nothing but the clothes on her back. The quintuplets heard bits and pieces despite Logan's efforts to shield them. One evening, Nolan approached Vanessa in the kitchen, his face serious. "The kids at school said you were married to a bad man," he said. "They said he hurt you." Vanessa's heart sank. She knelt to his level. "Yes," she said. "That's true." "Like really hurt you?" he asked. "Yes," she said again. Nolan's young face hardened with fierce resolve. "If he ever comes here, I'll protect you," he said. "I'm strong now." Vanessa pulled him into a hug, tears streaming. "You already protect me," she said. "All of you do. You remind me every day what love is supposed to look like." Harper appeared in the doorway, the other three trailing behind her. "You're the bravest person I know, Nessa," Harper said. "Braver than any superhero." "We love you," Harlow added simply. "And we're going to stand with you," Ryan said. "All of us, even if it gets hard," Noah finished. Surrounded by 5 8-year-olds who had claimed her as their own, Vanessa found the strength to see it through. The trial was grueling. Mike tried every tactic: character assassination, manipulation, leveraging his wealth and connections to paint Vanessa as a liar and a fraud. But the evidence was overwhelming. Mrs. Priscilla's testimony was devastating. Margaret spoke about Vanessa's physical and emotional state when she first hired her. The flinching, the fear, the panic attacks she had worked through in the back room. Mrs. Story described the terrified woman who had appeared at Logan's house with nothing. The jury saw the photos: Vanessa's bruised body, the medical reports of broken ribs, the documentation of the miscarriage caused by blunt force trauma, and there was no denying the truth. Michael Hayes was found guilty on multiple charges: domestic violence, assault, coercive control, and more. When the verdict was read, Vanessa didn't feel triumph, only exhaustion and a deep bone-level relief. It was over. Logan was waiting outside the courtroom with the quintuplets, who had insisted on coming even though they couldn't enter the proceedings. They rushed to her, 5 bodies colliding with hers in a group hug that nearly knocked her off her feet. "You did it," Noah cheered. "He can't hurt you anymore," Ryan said. "Can we go home now?" Harlow asked. Home. Yes, they could go home. And if you've stayed with Vanessa through the darkest parts of her journey, take a moment to hit like, share this story with someone who might be living in their own quiet battle, and subscribe. Because stories like hers are how we remind each other that monsters can be named, justice can be fought for, and new beginnings are real. 6 months later, on a perfect autumn day, Vanessa stood in the garden she'd planted with 5 eager helpers. She wore a simple white dress with flowers from the garden woven into her hair. The quintuplets stood around her, Nolan and Ryan in small suits, Noah clutching a ring-bearer's pillow, Harper and Harlow in matching lavender dresses with curls crowned in petals. Logan stood beneath an arch they had all built together, looking at Vanessa like she had hung the stars over their little patch of earth. "You sure about this?" he had asked the night before, half teasing and half earnest. "Instant family of 7 is a lot." Vanessa had laughed. "I've been sure since the moment 5 kids decided I was theirs," she'd said. Now, as they said their vows in front of a small gathering of friends, Mrs. Torrey, Mrs. Priscilla, Margaret from the bookstore, a few colleagues from the firm, Vanessa felt a completeness she had never imagined was possible when she sat on that cold bench years before. When it came time for Noah to bring the rings, he paused and looked at Vanessa seriously. "Our mom would have liked you," he said. "She would have wanted Dad to be happy again, and us too." Vanessa's voice was thick with emotion. "I'll never try to replace her, Noah," she said. "I promise." "We know," Harper added, stepping forward. "You're not our mom, you're our Nessa. That's different, but it's good." The ceremony continued with tears and laughter interwoven, and when Logan kissed, his bride, 5 children cheered so loudly, the neighbors probably heard every note. That evening, after the celebration, after the kids had finally tumbled into bed, Vanessa and Logan stood in their garden under the stars. "Thank you," Vanessa said softly. "For what?" Logan asked, pulling her close. "For seeing me that night," she said. "For stopping. For offering me more than shelter. For offering me a family. For giving me 2 years to heal before asking for more." "You gave us just as much," Logan replied. "Maybe more. You taught our kids that it's okay to love again without forgetting. You taught me that broken doesn't mean finished. And you taught all of us that family isn't just about biology or even marriage. It's about choosing each other every single day." The wind moved gently through the garden, rustling the leaves they had planted together, and behind them the house glowed warm against the coming dark, proof that a life can be rebuilt from almost nothing if people are willing to show up for each other. And as their story settles in your mind, if Vanessa's journey from being told she was worthless to standing in a garden as a chosen wife and mother figure has touched you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs the reminder that second chances are real, and subscribe so you can walk with us through more stories of courage, healing, and the kind of love that chooses you on your darkest night and keeps choosing you every day after.